So I normally spend my time just sticking to video games, posting endless videos for my demo reel playlist. But I needed a price for something today and I got brought to this bad boy. I just couldn't keep it to myself and I had to share it with you because nostalgia is a fun thing, but it's more fun when you get to share it with others. This is the 2000 JCPenney's Christmas catalog, and these Christmas catalogs were such a huge part of my childhood. Your parents would give you this catalog, and you'd go through it, search for what you want on your Christmas list, circle it, and give it back to your family. They divvy it up to the relatives, grandparents, all that. And not all of us got what we wanted. I mean, look at this little girl, for instance, who was in a magical trance over this empty gift bag. So I did want to spend some time giving some context for the year 2000, but I didn't want to sit here and talk for 5 minutes about, top things that year. The one thing you should really know is that the internet was really starting to take over. It had begun to just full force insert itself into everything. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And this was the year it all popped. And that was kind of the theme that year. All this technology and all these possibilities, but no one really knew exactly what to do with it. It was a lot of ideas with limited application and limited shelf life. Well, on to the catalog. So just a quick blurb about where I found this. So I went looking deliberately in the Internet Archive for it. That's where I thought I'd find it. But if there's one thing I've come to learn about the archive, it's if you're looking for something, you're never gonna find it. If you're not looking for something, you'll stumble across a lot of cool stuff. But in this case, I had to go back to an old favorite website of mine. It's christmas.musetechnical.com. Whoever runs that place has kept an archive of old retail catalogs from like JCPenney's and Sears. Unfortunately, this year I didn't find anything Toys R Us related, but I love this website, and if you browse through it and you happen to have something they're missing, please reach out and give it to them. But for reference, go there. It's a really cool site. And if you didn't grow up with Power Wheels, you were kind of missing out. And this is Power Wheels type stuff, but a Ford tractor, huh? I mean, and a shovel and a trailer. I never knew anyone who owned one of these, but they still make them. The demographics must be outside of my sphere if I haven't run into them in that many years alive. This one doesn't have a battery listed, so it's probably not electric. I'm looking at the one at the top, but the middle one does have a battery, and it's listed at 6 volts. I mean, think about that. In our future world, we've advanced to 24 volts. So much power. They still make these playsets exactly the same, right? Like, I could go back another 25 years and they'd still be in these catalogs, I think. I mean, there's iteration, sure, but I mean, look at this stuff. Cape Cottage? I mean, it sounds swank. You got a camper, a gazebo. I mean, could you imagine if you had $5,000 what you could create for your kid now? I mean, yeah, my kid does, alright. Owns a 200 square foot parcel of real estate. These things are indestructible. I feel like if your parents had one of these that they grew up with and they handed it down to you and you just inherited it, they'd still be upright and usable. I mean, they should build real houses out of these, just with insulation. And I kind of feel like this says a lot about the state of things. I feel like give it 5 years and we're going to be at the point where the price of an actual home in the 90s is going to get you a little Tykes house. Ooh, race car bed. No fucking way. Leather interior, sound effects, LED lights. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty practical bed, right? Alright, so keep in mind, this is the year 2000. I feel like somebody reading this in the year 2000 would be looking for their parents' catalogs to see if this exact picture is in it. I mean, the tone of everything is even creepy. Check this kid out. He's got the American Psycho thing going on. He's like, yo, check out these squiggles, motherfucker. Oh, and check this shit out. And it's IBM branded? Oh, slap some RGB on that. I feel like this little tool set. I think these are never going to stop being made. Costco makes a DeWalt branded set of power tools right now for kids, and I think it's pretty cool. I can just imagine, though, the fear of being a parent, because what if your kid came up to you like, going to fix the deck, Ma? And you're all like, yeah, that's cute. And you realize he had a really serious look on his face and he's not in the house anymore. This is a creepy magic mushroom house, and that is a nightmare-inducing face. Seems pleasant enough, but don't put that in the room I sleep. Alright, what's kind of nuts about these VTech things on the right is that sometimes it costs less to get one of these now than it was to buy those, and the ones now have like actual computers in them. It is pretty timeless though. You gotta admit, these VTech and Leapfrog toys are pretty cool, and you want to get your kids those. Especially if you have kids you ignore, so someone can still read to them, it's perfect. So this thing in the lower left is for toddlers. Even in the year 2000, we hadn't quite gone overboard with the protection stuff yet, but there's no safety bar on this swing. Like, look up a swing now and it's got a latch in the front and everything. That thing doesn't. It's got an open ledge in the back, so a kid can be like, yeah, I'm going down the slide, and throw himself off the back. There's like zero chance a kid isn't busting their ass on those steps either. I mean, think kids run around in socks. Look at the kid to the right in socks. Yeah. Gonna go face first into the floor. So just in case I never go through one of these catalogs again, I just gotta point out that we're 4 years removed from the great Tickle Me Elmo fiasco of 1996. Ever seen Jingle All the Way? Based on a true story, except it was the Tickle Me Elmo doll. And instead of Arnold, it was being pushed on TV by Rosie O'Donnell, who had her own show for 6 years. And looking back on this from the year 2025, I gotta say, I mean, this is really good at teaching your kids to have an imagination. You expose them to fantasy, unicorns, princesses, fairy tales, and the magic money machine. Oh, hi, Steve. Did you notice Barney's magical penis banjo too? And is that Freddy Fazbear? Lovable? That's what we're gonna call it? It's kind of disappointing that I haven't heard a single Rocky and Bullwinkle reference since that terrible movie came out. But Tweety, dang. Okay, then some strange memories. The Looney Tunes renaissance wasn't a joke, it happened. Space Jam happened. Tiny Toons, Tasmania, all that made sense, but Tweety was strangely a huge deal for a few years, and I don't think I understood it even then. So have we improved on the portable pinball machines in the last 25 years? No, we have not. History lesson time. In the year 2000, only a handful of states had legal medical marijuana. Now, 24 have it completely legal, and 39 have it legal for medicinal purposes. I mention this for no reason at all. I mean, there's just something about the way she's looking at this doll. Like, this isn't my kid. Huh, the whiskey trick did work. Is she dead? Like, if this was a page of Ninja Turtles, then I'd probably be all over these pages, but I know zero about dolls, Barbies, any of it. But what I didn't realize is that in 2000, girls were clamoring for an Aloha Elvis doll. 25 years later, and there are more women MDs, PAs, and nurse practitioners. Yay! 25 years later, and the male CEOs have now made the healthcare industry hated. Boo. The real lesson here is that they knew to teach little girls that men were going to ignore all of their health concerns, so they had to learn to do it themselves. Are we positive that's a baby and not a tiny elderly man? The one on the left is clearly saying, now that we have the murder weapon, there's just one more thing. Creepy ventriloquist dummies. Oh, Goosebumps. That makes more sense. Isn't it kind of crazy how we have a Goosebumps movie in 2025 and it stars Ross from Friends? It's a very strange timeline we have. Okay, Jesus, Jill, you are freaking me out. But check the girl up on the upper left. She looks totally stoked for the New Jack vs. Mikey Whipwreck evening gown match about to happen. Also, you know how they have Muppet babies? Just an idea. ECW babies. You got Mr. Saturday Morning, the Sandboy with his cardboard tube. This is money, but I digress. Just want to say, great job Robert Tonner for encapsulating every 2000s WB network show into a single image. Betty Spaghetti. I guess that was really a 2000s thing? Alright, look at the lower left. Not gonna lie, they still make these, and it's pretty cool. Once you create your little micro Disneyland, there's not much to do but look at it though. Unless your cat wants to play Godzilla, or you want to send toy stormtroopers on a playdate photo shoot. I'm a man of 1,000 ideas, ask me more. Oh, the 2000s kid cameras. Why didn't I think of getting a Taz Polaroid when I was out shopping for one last year? It's just awesome that technology is so trivial that all of this is on a cell phone and you can just buy your kid a cheap real projector. I just saw one for $28, so adjusted for inflation, the little bulb-powered kids slide projector is actually more expensive than the modern 1080p HDMI one. Wait a sec. Why is everyone smiling about air travel? Where's the security gate, TSA, and the naked people scanner? Oh, I'll have to check back on this next year after the plot twist. In my many years of being alive, I have never once met a family that bought a doll bigger than their kid. What exactly is the market for this? And now we're at the first pop culture references with Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. Hold this page, I'm sure I'll get back to it. But if you're still interested in diva culture, here you go. It always makes me slightly uncomfortable seeing homemaker stuff in the pink aisle. But there's one toy I gotta point out. This one, the cleaning trolley on the upper right. Just putting this into perspective, but I've never known anyone to have a cleaning trolley, nor would they ever need one. No one's house is that big. Even my friends with big houses never needed one of these. So I'm left with only two thoughts I can go here. Either this is actually a janitor trolley and JCPenney is just like, yep, wives of the US, you are janitors. Or some little girl looked at the rich family's maid and thought, if I practice really hard, maybe dad will give me that extra attention he gives her. Now we're having some fun. I could use a handheld cotton candy maker. Is that what that is? Because that's awesome. And we have to have those, right? Wait, we don't? I mean, there's portable ones, like desktop ones, but this one's totally handheld. And we're in the future year of 2000. And then there's an easy bake oven right below it, back when it needed a 100-watt light bulb. I think they have a heating element now, like a mini toaster oven. And not gonna lie, I thought these things were awesome. They still kind of are. If I were a parent, I'd go get boxes of Jiffy Mix and make little baggies of mixes for my kids. I wonder if they're gonna have those gummy makers too later on. But what they do have is one of those Baskin-Robbins ice cream makers for $25. You know, this actually does work, right? Kind of. I mean, you're definitely not going to get results like what they show in the picture. I feel like these food toys are some calculated gambling by parents, though. If you have a smart kid and the machine works, you get a couple hours of captivated silence and then a treat. If you have a dumb kid or a crappy machine, your kitchen's flooded with melted ice cream. And if you're really fancy, you can get the Barbie oven. Or, check it out, a contemporary Chuck E. Cheese pizza oven. Imagine the superior quality of Chuck E. Cheese pizza made into easy on-the-go powders. That's just a recipe for success. And before you ask, yes, there was a Ninja Turtles one. Here we go. The best thing in the catalog so far. A Bob Ross master paint set and a VHS instructional video. Booyah. Ah, the Light Bright, another toy that used to need a light bulb. I wish I knew things about telescopes. Like, I can't tell you if we've made improvements over time at all. I feel like it's all the same stuff. But I gotta ask, are stealth telescopes a thing? Why would you need to be stealthy unless you're using it to spy on the neighbors? I need one of these microscopes. And am I crazy, or are these chemistry kits kind of hard to find these days? I remember looking for one as a gift a few years back for a niece, and it's not like you could buy these off the shelves. At least I couldn't see them. I wonder if they discovered that they created fumes or something. I think earlier chem sets from like the 80s and 70s had open flames too, and I'm pretty sure that's a no-no now. Alright, that thing in the lower left is pretty cool. I mean, it's not a real screen, it's more like a projection. You know, like one of those school transparency projectors. but the equivalent of this with an actual screen exists now, and it costs about the same. Ah, the Incredible Edibles Fright Factory. That sounds like a prank gone very, very wrong. But these are $4.20 free. It's such an odd place to put that though. You've got your horror candies sitting right next to the rip-apart human anatomy body and the bugs. And I remember creepy crawlers, but I think they just changed the mix to something edible and turned that very same bug mold into the gummy bug maker that I was looking for in the years that followed. So here's when I get unreasonably excited about something I've never even owned. Every time I would open one of these catalogs up, doesn't matter if it was JCPenney or Sears, I would see these electronic football setups, and they looked awesome. I'm not even a football fan. These things just look gigantic and amazing. I've never, ever seen one of these in the wild. In fact, I've never actually seen a YouTube video on one of these. I'm gonna change that immediately after I post this, but seriously, if this thing is half as big as it looks, where do you even put this? How do you store it? Okay, this looks awesome. If I could find this for $80 right now, I would highly consider buying it immediately, especially if it folds up to store. I mean, it's simple, yes, but sometimes you just want to play some pinball and it's either drop $5,000 on a Costco Jurassic Park machine or you get the cheap plastic ones we saw earlier. There's really no in between, and this is in between. This? Okay, that's an awesome idea. And we seriously don't make these things today? This would be awesome in a garage. No, I can't find anything like it sold today. I mean, check this out. It's about 12 feet long without the goals, 6 feet wide, and 7 foot high. This wouldn't even fit in the room I'm in, and it would take up half of my master bedroom. The idea is badass. Not sure how well the badminton and tennis would be, but if you TikTok parents have one of these, then your kids wouldn't be taking out your light fixtures. I'm pretty sure that every parent looked for this exact page in the catalog and just ripped it out before their kids got to it. You've got the hell of Christmas, then you have to battle Black Friday, and then finally you drink your dignity away at New Year's. The last thing you want is for your kid to be ripping it like animal. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Elton John. What if they're not singing? What if they're having a diss battle? And is that the brother or the dad of that girl? Just so we're clear, when parents complain about kids having cell phones, it's just the porn they're worried about. We were giving phones to kids for ages. And it might seem strange that someone willing to buy Barbie gear would need to use a phone, but it's not. Speaking of comms, I'll always be supremely jealous of kids who are able to put these walkie-talkies to use. Like, okay, yeah, occasionally my friends would covertly case the neighborhood, but TV would have you believe that we either liked our siblings enough to share a frequency with them, or we'd have somebody across the street that was both our age and not an asshole. Now that I have a cell phone, I will just never know the awesomeness of the walkie-talkie. So that M&M's camera, who was this made for? Oh, hell yeah, we're on the dudes now. Forget healing people, raising babies, baking. About to blow some shit up. I will bet you anything Michael Bay was taught everything he knows from a few pages in a 1970 JCPenney catalog. I mean, they start it with a G.I. Joe with a Stinger missile launcher. No, Mr. Bay, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again, sir. I feel like this all sort of became obsolete with video games. I've seen some action figure stuff in Target and Walmart, sure, but I could not tell you the last time that I saw ye generic kids military playsets out there. I'm sure they exist, but at a certain point, Call of Duty, Command & Conquer, for my age, just kind of made them unnecessary. I mean, think about it. They don't call GTA a sandbox for nothing. This is literally what we were doing in sandboxes. So I'm confused and I'm trying to piece this together. We've got the construction crew working with the fire brigade and the police. They called in the National Guard, and I've seen every 80s and 90s movie to know that the ninja played a part in this. Even in this picture, though, they kind of have the knight to the side like, you asshole LARPers are to blame for the toy factory fire, I just know it! You and your fucking lightning bolts. I feel like this Power Rangers Transformer has to be something destined for eBay. This is huge. And it's actually not as rare as I thought. I did look it up, and it only sells for $200. 41 pages later, and I can finally call back to it. this is what the Christina Britney action figures were meant for. Slim Shady knew it's what everybody wanted and what everybody needed. So along with the wrestlers on the last page, there were these little finger bikes, and I didn't know about these. I knew about tech decks, but I really didn't think anyone bought playsets for them. Grinding off a monitor is kind of a neat, fidgety time waster and all, but buying a skate park to invest in that hobby? And did you know they still make tech decks? Oh, these things! I had a couple of these figures, but they really didn't scratch that action figure itch because you couldn't do anything with them. They just had the one pose. They do kind of still exist, and they don't just have the one pose anymore. In fact, they have accessories. Unfortunately, there's literally 3 athletes in the lineup right now. 2001, a year after this catalog, was the last year the original series were made. Hasbro now has the rights, and it's a very rare thing for them to actually release figures. They should totally bring these back though, since it's an infinite money glitch waiting to happen. You've got decades of sports legends, unique uniforms, sponsorships, shoes, stadiums, and arenas. Just think you can customize a scene. You can have Grant Hill dunking on James Harden while in black Reeboks in a current Pistons away jersey. People would so buy these. And speaking of sports, check out the baseball players on the left. 3 of them, but one of those things is not like the others. That rivalry really did not age well at all. Some things just don't change, nor should they, like Matchbox. One day though, this will all change. I'm telling you, we will one day be able to drive these with our phones, there'll be a camera on board, and then the race is going to be on to get accurate suspension and handling in them, and we'll be out there shooting chase scenes on GoPros. And with oncoming trains, you're tempting me. And from police chases, fast cars, loops, and pure action and speed to something completely different. The new PT Cruiser. So I know nothing about slot car racing, and I've always managed to stall mine out every time I've touched one, but these things already look pretty cool. These catalogs remind you that if you have a basement, there's so many useless things you could be doing with it. Now, it's not like these things don't exist anymore, but it's insane how many things we ported to our phones. When I was a kid, I freaking loved the idea of an RC speedboat. They were so fun, and I mean, give me one right now and I would so race it. You want to know why this page looks so boring? Because there are no cats in it. I am kind of hoping to be doing this long enough to get back to the 90s because Spytech toys were advertised like crazy to us kids. But here we just have nothing branded night vision goggles. And this tech doesn't even seem to have advanced at all in the last 25 years. I guess the premise is that these have one of those not UV lights, kind of like they do on the cat laser pointers. And that helps the plastic pick up things. I don't know, maybe our generations can just agree that cheap stuff is cheap stuff. Considering the Jurassic Park had us all wanting night vision goggles, you'd think they would have actually made this a thing somehow. What are we doing with all of our science? Kind of the same story here. Once video games took over, there was just no incentive for anyone to advance the 80s gun gimmick games. So they just didn't. This took me down a little bit of a rabbit hole. An RC helicopter isn't a new or unique thing, but the description is important. This is a fuel-powered helicopter with a Cox .049 engine. No clue if I'm saying that right. I think it might be the 049, but I'm just guessing. This is an actual mini engine, and they stopped making these entirely in 2006, at least the Cox kind. I'm still not sure how many of these, if any, are produced now. I think that mini engines are the coolest things, even though I've never run one. $15 seems like an absolute steal considering their lack of availability now. Timber log? So not Lincoln logs? Which, despite being a totally American thing, was mostly made in China. Hey, here's that same one on eBay. Whoa, CyberConnects is going hard here. And then you've got, check it out, Lego branded Legos down there. Lego Star Wars was a thing in 2000, but other than that, the whole Lego explosion of IP branding hadn't taken off yet. Harry Potter would come out the next year, but then it was until 2011 before they just went nuts slapping logos on all their sets. Heelys! I don't know if these turned into Heelys later or if this was a competing brand, but it looks like these things are what kicked off that trend. It all happened in 2000. So I get to skip a few pages because thankfully sports stay sports. Except I'm not seeing pickleball here, so we're clearly in the dark ages. Although I gotta say, get some slime? And you've got yourself a Double Dare game. Baby Ruth? Those shoes on the lower left, what I really need are some big bird-looking ones. I know far too many people who are terrified of emus and ostriches, and this would be gold to me. And we're back to the kids' tech, and check this out. Printer support. What exactly are we printing? Well, I actually checked the manual. This thing has quite a bit to it. Apart from that glorious translucent color scheme, it comes with a word processor, greeting card making software, an address book, scheduler, calculator, a money manager, testing on 3 different languages, logo programming, printer out, and the ability to expand via software cartridge. I think my biggest problem with these is that since it was the year 2000, computer labs were kind of old news. And if you were going to do anything computer related, well, it'd be on a real computer. So there's actually a wiki on this, and there was a whole suite of these things between 97 and 2000 with slightly different functions. But check this out. A modem and email capability. So I guess if you had an elementary school kid, a crowded family computer, and the need to lock down their screen time, this could have been a way to go. And wait, what is this? Those were some mad scientists over at VTech. Am I missing something, or is this a lot of product overlap? And they didn't stop either. I mean, you got a tough book, a PDA, stores 12 pictures, and a reminder that high resolution has never had an actual definition. It translates to goalpost on wheels. Look it up. Talking smart Alex is not your friend. Alex looks like he ran into some hard times and might have just left the Incredible Edibles Fright Factory. Just ignore those shitty weed precursors for a minute. Focus on the important piece. Look at that video center. It's oddly glorious. It's great for clumsy children and adults who have a problem with sharp corners. I seriously love that thing, and I've never ever seen one before. Now the games definitely suck though. The Wii was pretty amazing because it was the first thing like it that actually worked. But that did not stop people from making them. I actually have one of these plug-in blaster games hiding around here somewhere, and I should probably go get some batteries and check it out and see how bad it really was. Nah, we made it. My people. And to think, all I was looking for was a price on something. The only thing to say here is that time is a very funny thing. Even with a beefed up processor and color capabilities, this was still just a Game Boy at heart, a system that was released 11 years ago. So you could say that the PSP was still 4 years away. Or you could say that the PSP was just 4 years away. Both make sense. And the reason for its lasting success? Well, AA batteries, the rechargeable ones, weren't really considered reliable at the time. I mean, they technically were, but a lot could go wrong. And they were more expensive, so the initial investment was kind of up there. And that really was the problem with these handheld competitors until rechargeable packs came out. Battery life. But hey, those sexy translucent colors are back. This is a trend I genuinely miss, and modern controller and handheld companies like 8BitDo and Ambernick have thankfully started to get that. 6 flavors of Pokemon, a Pokedex, a Pokemon Battle Arena, Pokemon plushies, and a Pokemon RC car. Hey, Google, when did the Pokemon movie come out?
In the United States of America, Pokemon, the first movie came out on November 6, 1999.
More Pokemon. Oh, those are Digimon. And DBZ. And in the lower left, is that a Versus pachinko machine? I really need to know more about that. That might be cool. I've tried game rockers before, or game chairs, and they've all absolutely sucked. But this actually looks awesome. If you're a short king. And then there are these things around it. Integrating electronics into sports balls was something they used to do. And I've seen these before, but I don't remember whether or not I actually tried one myself. It's just been so long. But look at them. They don't link to a bigger game or anything. Not your TV, not a system. You just use the ball to interact with a Tiger game built into it. Except this football, that measures distance. I suppose that could make for a great game of 500, if you remember that, because I just remembered. And here's the page I was originally looking for, and it doesn't even answer my question. I wanted to know the original price of a Dreamcast keyboard and mouse. But, as with most things Dreamcast, it's sadly just not common enough. But seriously, behold its glory. When people say that this was the most underrated console of all time, they mean it. And look at the value here. A Dreamcast with NFL 2K, Sonic Adventure, and $100 towards SegaNet for $160? Looking at the games, I get a little scared when I see the inverse pricing. It never fails when you read these. The titles now that people just can't give away, like sports titles, are usually the most expensive ones on these lists. It's usually a branding thing. I present to you physical apps. And I see some pop culture branding, sexy translucence, and is that LCD Beatmania? Well, here's a page dedicated to useless shit. And it's MTV shit. So not only is it crap, but in the case of this tune teaser, it actually tries to ruin your music. That's actually pretty on brand for them at the time. I do love that they gave the resolutions for this camera though. 325 by 288 high resolution pictures, or 80 low res at 150 by 120. And what size are the Twitch emotes? 112 by 112? Dang. These are neat. Useless, but neat. I do love how the Pac-Man handhelds don't actually show Pac-Man on the screen. They know. But I really need that Judge Judy electronic gavel. That looks cool. I could have sworn I've seen this exact design in the snow sled section. I'm looking at these third-party controllers, and if you thought that JCPenney only sells jank alongside clothes these days, adjust your thinking, because it was all the days. So this is the competition. Dreamcast with 2 games and $100 of SegaNet, or an N64 with no games and a year of Nintendo Power. Make your choice. Nintendo Power was pretty awesome, but you can't play online with it. We'll just ignore that seat thing. I'm looking at that Game Shark, and what was this VHS for? Also worth noting, there's literally nothing on that tape. You can see it from here. And I checked on the side. My suspicions were confirmed. It was just a 15-minute long video tutorial about how to hack like a pro. We wasted plastic for that. I'm not so sure if these VR facial reactions are what could be considered joy. These are, unsurprisingly, LCD games. We wasted plastic for that. It is worth noting that Furbies were a 1998 thing, so this Terminator pup was a direct result of that. Oh, a Cyberco! Now remember earlier when I said I would get unreasonably excited about something? Well, this is it. I don't care how gimmicky it was or how fast it got obsolete, I wanted one of these so bad, and I kind of still do. These devices were a portable messaging system. They work with other local nearby Cybercos to form a mesh LAN. The range is about a football field, so if you and a few friends had these in high school, then you'd have the whole property covered, even in the country. If your frat or sorority assigned these to all their members, you might even have a whole small university campus covered. The appeal of this was so limited though, and probably even a couple of years too late. But consider this, while cell phones were a thing back then, they were not the thing you have in your pants now. This device was $130 and messaging was free. You could get a cell phone on the cheap, say $30, but SMS wasn't really a thing, and you often had limited minutes. If you did have messaging, it was going to cost you per message. All of this is avoiding the activation fees, and the industry loved that at the time. This was the cheaper option, but it was arguably not cheap enough. We just saw Leapfrog and VTEX with about the same level of tech, and those came in cheaper. So yeah, wishful thinking. But another bit of wishful thinking, someone should make a Cyberco-like OS for the Pi Pico W. We could revive it for way cheaper. Everyone could have one. Just promise me that if you do it, you'll keep the sexy translucence. Because my eyes are seriously drawn to it. Check this out, an eavesdropping detector for your landline. If you haven't already figured out from all those 80s and 90s themed TV shows, unless you were rich, you just had the one phone line to your house and every phone could pick up and listen in on a call. Nothing was more terrifying than saying something secretive and hearing an audible click on the line.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what to tell Sue. I mean, it's not contagious, but it's not going to stop itching for a couple of weeks. I don't know what to do.
90s teen life was kind of a spy game, y'all. Unfortunately, unless you're into the Powerpuff Girls as much as this person apparently was, we're in the realm of betting in clothes for a while, so skipping ahead. Well, maybe not all of it. We have to make one pit stop because check this out. The inflatable furniture trend. Yeah, that was going on at the time. For $20, you can extend your love of translucence to the very chair you sit on, and you can take it with you. This page kind of speaks for itself. This is prime 2000s clothing, which is actually kind of rare in these catalogs. You think you're going to see a bunch of contemporary outfits, but it's usually very muted and neutral. But a FUBU drop and those pants? Welcome to the past. And as much as it might surprise you, I did not, in fact, wear FUBU back then. See what I mean? The clothes just really aren't that interesting. Like, it's the same logo and the same general styles you'd see today. Some years the stripes are in style, sometimes they aren't. And material for activewear is way, way better these days, although, you know those cheap plasticky gym shorts that you were forced to wear as a kid because you were going to destroy them anyway? I saw them at Macy's the other day being sold for over $30 for adults. Weird. So how are we feeling about the fashion? I feel like a lot of department store fashion just sort of stayed samey for the longest time. Don't get me started on Sears. I feel like they were running on pure 80s overstock until they finally went under. Doesn't Tulsi Gabbard own this entire collection? Every girl knows when it comes to expressing her mood, it's all about the color. That's like every color on you, and black pants, and that face. I'm getting a vibe here, and can y'all just walk home with me? I'd feel safer that way. Yeah, this was never a thing. Oh my god, she found me. I'm just looking at that and I feel like me and her are asking the very same question right now. So, what's the title of this album? Comments below. Dazzle him with gifts that shimmer. Well, you dazzled him alright. So about this page. This was 2000, and JCPenney, Macy's, Sears, pretty much every department store ran into the same problem. They imagined that online shopping was already a thing. Trouble was that they didn't make it a thing. Bigwigs truly thought, if you build it, they will come. But these websites were not a joy to use, especially considering that everything they sold was physical. No one bought clothes online back then. No one bought sports equipment online. JCPenney did nothing to convince you otherwise, and this, almost inarguably, led to their current situation. All the department stores thought they were too big to fail and that they could never really go away. Even when Sears was flailing its way into bankruptcy, they just sort of figured they'd absorb Sears' losses, take the refugees, and let Best Buy and Home Depot take care of the appliances and hardware. That was stupid. There's a reason why Amazon is ludicrously overbearing right now. They knew in the 90s that there were shoppers, there were online shoppers, and you needed to get people to convert or use the online experience as complementary to the store one. Just soak this in. A stoplight for your garage to make sure that you don't back into the wall. There was indeed a time where we didn't have backup cameras, which leads me to a quick tangent. So I just bought a new car after driving a manual dumb car forever, probably one of the last dumb cars ever made. I had to install a Bluetooth stereo in it, it was that old. Now I hated renting cars because they'd always be yelling at me with their warning systems and their beeps. But I got this new car and I do love it, but I really miss everything about the old dumb car. I don't feel like I have control, there are just too many safety functions. And that sounds insane, right? You want safety, who would want less safety options? It's because the moment you get a safety function, whether you realize it or not, your head starts to rely on it. At the very least, it knows the features are there. My parked car once got backed into by someone else in my apartment complex, and she couldn't believe it because it wasn't on the camera. Yeah. Plus, if you get into a fender bender now you have to replace or calibrate all of the sensors on that fender. This is one of the reasons why insurance rates skyrocketed. Your insurance doesn't give a fuck how many safeguards are on your Toyota. They don't care about you, but they'll total your car if a bird shits on it. Oh, sexy translucence. I want one of these for my emergency kit. 2000s innovations? Didn't these automatic wine openers have a phase around this time? I remember that being the most asshole thing in the world to use. A motorized leaning tower of CDs. For those that are wondering, yes, MP3s were out back then. In fact, just a few months before the catalog was released, Metallica was taking Napster to court. The iPod would be released next year. Not gonna lie, I kinda want that telescope. Whenever the neighbors do something stupid or questionable, I can just stand up in my window in full view and whip this out like I'm some medieval lord of the neighborhood. It's kind of funny how you don't immediately think of the golfing demographic as being Simpsons fans, but I mean, all the golfers we know are. And almost as if it was responding directly to my last comment, the catalog then shows me the other golf demographic. Let's be clear, I'm pretty sure the Simpsons golfers are more skilled at it than the people that built cell phones into their bags. One thing they don't tell you or warn you about pool tables is that if you get a good one, they're impossible to move and instantly turn a usable section of a room into a useless void. Okay, I could be very wrong with what I'm about to say, but we need to talk about sports merch. Going back in time, you're probably going to see the most gaudy or uselessly branded mismatches of products you could even think of. Throughout the 80s and 90s, you'd be bombarded with TV advertisements asking you to call in and buy some of the most obnoxious NFL shit, like football phones. I don't feel like that's the case now though, because we've just accepted that only getting a t-shirt doesn't make you a true fan. You have to go get the hats and accessories, but the flip side is it's all wearable and it's fine. But the weird shit they sold back then, you had to wear it proud. Over the years, the weirder your display, the bigger a fan you were. Why does he have a Cowboys toilet seat? He must just love them. You can feel the passion. My Steelers toothbrush isn't speaking to anyone but me in the morning. So maybe the best way to show him my love is to show him how financially irresponsible I'm willing to be for that love. Meatloaf was a gigantic pussy. Give me that Steelers pool table. Oh god, the inflatables have gone too far this time. I've been lazy, but I don't think I've ever been TV tray on a beanbag lazy. This is pre-RGB lighting expressionism. Are we sure this is a 2000s catalog? This screams gaudy 80s or 90s. I mean, when you paced back and forth nervously tethered to the phone, you got a little peckish. Seriously though, what is up with all this M&M branding? Hey, Tiger Stadium. That's not a thing anymore. Hey, the old Mighty Ducks logo. That's not a thing anymore. Hey, a Seattle Supersonics beanbag. You get the point. Every adventuring kid in the 80s and 90s wanted one of these. Did the desire stay the same or did it wane after 2000? I just don't know. But like pre-2000, it was hunting for rare, ancient, lost treasure of our past. But post-2000, I feel like you're just looking for shit that people have dropped. Probably the stupider things from this catalog. So we joke now that JCPenney is 70% clothes, 20% bedding, and the rest is made for TV, useless crap. Was it ever not that way though? Well, we're not far back enough in time yet to see the useful things. These are also things that I see sold during the holidays at my local Fred Meyer. For you East Coast people, that's a grocery store that also sells other things. Minnesota has malls for below zero shopping for everything at once. We have Fred's. Mini binoculars. Not in itself interesting, but sexy translucent mini binoculars. Department stores sold a lot of everything. It gets better if you look in the right place, like Sears has more stuff than this, but these monthly payments they're mentioning reminds me, there's no layaway anymore. Like that all got phased out, plus it doesn't match with our get every price everywhere all at once mentality and the fact that we just split payments over time. I kind of hate that, but what can you do? Layaway was like the reverse of a firm. You would lay away the thing that you wanted at customer service and the store would hold it for you. You'd come in and make payments and then on your last payment they would give you the item. It was cool if you knew you really wanted something but had to wait until payday to afford the whole thing. Useful for us broke people and TVs or appliances. Home gym options really didn't change much since then. We added phone holders and that's about it. But the way they advertised these, it was as if literally everyone had the free space to set it down, walk on it once, then never touch it again. This machine is endorsed by Christine Brinkley and Chuck Norris. I remember those commercials too. I totally forgot this happened, but Suzanne Summers died 2 years ago. Some of us didn't know her as the actress Suzanne Summers, but instead as the Suzanne Summers with amazing thighs. So first, we've got the contemporary Ionic hairbrush. Seriously, Ionic was slapped on so many things around this time to sound cool, but be honest with me, when was the last time you've seen a set of hair curlers? If my parents' generation were anti-curlers, there can't be any more people left who are fans, right? Or did one of the current generations rebel and bring it all back? And yeah, just stick your face in a mister. Seems legit for 20 bucks. I suppose they just kept the design and told you to add essential oils a few years later. This is the kind of shit that I saw growing up and through the 2000s. I gotta say that I am so happy the current state of beauty is like actual home dermatology tools, decent skin and hair care, and a bunch of easy to use disposable masks. Not this destined to be a horror villain mask and electrical impulses everywhere. Laser tooth whitening system. Well, it's the same as the LED ones you see today, just with lasers. It's basically hydrogen peroxide sun bleaching. We really have always loved our teeth in this country, and to be fair, I'm a teethist. Bad teeth give me the ickies. Same stuff you're used to today, just with nickel-cadmium batteries. Now that you've all had a chance to browse AliExpress, this spa stuff doesn't feel so fancy now, does it? I know it's just luggage, but this page just stopped me dead in my tracks. Why? Just why? I suppose I can't just skim past all of the lamps, because even though they're not interesting, it is worth mentioning that all of these use incandescent light bulbs at this time. The switch to LED didn't happen yet, there was still a few years to go. When it did, I don't know if you remember, but it caused huge issues with wiring. Once companies realized they could use cheaper materials and rate their lamps for under 20 watts, they did that. And people still had the old incandescents and tried to plug them into those. Melty toasty educational fun for everyone. It's actually kind of sad that these just aren't viable anymore in the lives of normal people. They look so nice. So here you go. This is our elaborate Christmas lighting. No permanent outdoor lights, no RGB, no LEDs, none of that. We did lose that classic Christmas light glowy feel though. I love those on the traditional multicolored ones. It had only just occurred to me that all of this fancy, ornate stuff is all imported from China, not made in China. They act like it was hard work curating this foreign collection. So after about 30 or 40 pages of Christmas stuff, it is a Christmas catalog, we finally arrived to some appliances. I just want to point out the total lack of coffee gear, one Krups espresso machine and a drip machine, no AeroPress, no Nespresso, no Breville, just a pot and some bad lattes. Admit it, you thought that was chicken TV. This, my friends, is the George Foreman page. I had one earlier in my life and I hated it. Oh, it cooked everything. It kind of removed the fat, but you know what it also removed? Moisture and flavor. But people could not stop buying these things. Foreman was basically the Instant Pot of that generation. One successful product and 20 other variations with slight differences. No, okay, I'm wrong. I guess there is one other coffee item. A not latte machine. No lie, the old man in me sort of wants to have a specific set of bedding for Christmassy warmth. Let's see. Bedding. Ooh, technology is back! Let's see. For $1,300, you get sexy translucence and a 600 megahertz processor. This is gonna be rough. One processor, 64 megabytes of RAM, 15 gigabyte hard drive, a CD-ROM, 56K modem, a 15-inch square monitor, JBL speakers, that's pretty cool, and an internet keyboard because those were things. Windows 98 and a software fun package, which is usually crap, yeah, like that. Is that sexy translucent? I don't think so, which kind of a shame. If you're gonna rip off the iBook, you should just go all the way. There we go, the OG translucent computer. I never owned one, but I always wanted an iBook and wondered what it tasted like. At that price, not happening. I grew up on Gateway. These things. This kind of thing popped up from time to time, but I never knew anyone who used one of these. Anyone who bought it forgot about it. Those were pushed for years and were always described as working exactly like how you use Outlook for now. Check it out, $60 for TracFone. The big guns were AT&T, Sprint, and Bell. TracFone was still TracFone back then. You used the cards to load your balance in minutes. On the plus side, you couldn't get unsolicited dick pics back then. Cordless phones, oh my! And digital answering machines. If you think that Disney merch is overpriced now, take a look at this. I literally had that phone on the right. It was even plugged in. I don't remember making a single call on it, but it worked. Sexy translucents, and what the hell is that? I mean, phone cords were basically slinkies, but this feels ridiculous. So it's a bunch of musical instruments for a few pages, but I suppose this could interest someone if you're into guitars. And I think this is about the point in my life where I stopped associating Casio with anything I wanted. Karaoke with cassettes. Apparently, these things are one of the biggest reasons why cassettes stuck around for so long. Yeah, they still exist. They're also the single coolest form of musical media ever. Nothing beats a custom-cased cassette with labels and stickers and maybe even sexy translucents if you want. And all these radio options. Yacht radios, atomic clock, a world radio, and translucent radios. Get a translucent cassette, put it into the translucent boombox, and boom, panties drop. It's nice. These things were like our cell phone cases back then. Some even had changeable plates. So they still make this, except with an LED display instead of a CRT. I was looking for something to keep in an emergency box that I could power with regular batteries, and this came up, or the new version of it did. I'm not gonna lie, if this thing weren't black and white, I'd want that specific one off of eBay. But these were the official guys. Oh, I see your portable LCD displays, and while that's cool and all, you can even input stuff into those. It's just not a Game Gear TV now, is it? So much to say here. I think I kinda lied about the coolest form of media. It is the mini disc. Cassettes come in second, but all the way at the end, we finally get ourselves an MP3 player. Welcome to the 21st century is the tagline. I suppose they weren't wrong, but a 64 megabyte memory stick? That would only fit like what, 7 320 MP3 files? And if you take your music seriously, you don't put up with that 128 bitrate crap. The grandparents of Bluetooth speakers. I don't care how translucent you make it, you won't stop me from noticing that none of these support MP3 files. Nah, Iowa. When you wanted Sony but couldn't afford it. They got you by, and I had one. Mine supported MP3s though. It's just sad that 40% of the space these things take up is pretty much useless now. I could be remembering this wrong, but I remember these Bose ads being all over the place at night, because, infomercials aired at night. Anyway, if I'm not mistaken, 2000s-ish was about when Bose started to make its massive push into the mainstream. They were around before this, sure, but this is the year they pushed their fancy upper-class sound pretty hard, and it's the first year they released a noise-canceling headphone. Once they did that and got on the planes, the rest was history. A hardware CD recorder. I mean, it's kind of obvious they had to exist, but I've never actually seen one myself. If your parents were rich and threw CDs at radio stations, find those discs, get them on the archive. This, my friends, is a glorious Sony Trinitron. These are some of the best TVs ever made. It even has picture-in-picture, a thing that was never really a thing except for people flipping in between sports games. When you find one of these formerly $1,600 behemoths being given away to pretty much whoever can carry it, bring a forklift and do not place this on any IKEA furniture or it will just disintegrate under the pressure. Speaking of massive wastes of space, it's kind of nice that we just don't have all of these things anymore. A camcorder, a CD changer, a TV, you probably even have stereo output, all in your pants. Do you remember the day that you bought a 13-inch TV for $190? Hey, we might not all love our new digital display future, but at least things got cheaper. So we're at page 677, and this is the first mention of DVDs. I thought maybe I just skipped it with the CD players, I'm not sure. DVDs became a thing right here at this point in history. Sure, people talked about it coming for years, but it was finally happening. The format became formally sold as a mass-marketed product in 1999, but as you know, format wars are everything. The PS2 released right around this time, so that war was over in a hurry. 2001 catalog is probably going to have a bunch of VHS players on sale. No, not a built-in nightlight. What's wrong with you, Phillips? The TV is the nightlight. Oh, right. I almost forgot about the V-chip thing. This was, again, right around the time when it became ubiquitous. It was a parental control chip that no one ever used, but there was actually a deadline of 2000 to make it standard across all new TVs. So this was very much a 2000s thing, which is, in hindsight, pretty hilarious. For an entire decade, we've been putting up with the video nasties list, the constant bitching about violent video games like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap, and yeah, they're their words, not mine. And then they actually put it into law to build a censorship safeguard into TVs. And not only did no one use it, but right after they did all this, they spent all this effort for over a decade, the internet exploded into popularity. Porn for everyone, anywhere. It gets even more interesting because at this time, there was a lot of serious discussion about censoring the internet and how to do it. And these days, there's still a bunch of people who would love to do that. But I'm convinced that all the wasted effort only for the internet to come up just made everyone throw their hands up and say fuck it. Yup, once you got bigger, you needed a massive TV stand. No wall mounts for you. Trinitrons everywhere in all shapes and sizes. Web TV. That's funny. Yeah, this never took off. This basically just turned your TV into a web terminal. And then there's TiVo, which, okay, that did stick for a bit. TiVo was a TV recorder with a hard drive in it. I've never actually stumbled across a TiVo to see if anything's still on it because that would be kind of awesome. Anyway, TiVo actually became genericized for a while. You didn't record, you TiVo'd it. Since there was no streaming back then, careful recording setup was a must. If the big game showed up on channel 6 while you were ending work, then you had to set your TV to that channel with a programmed VCR and hope to God no one touched anything. With TiVo, that was no more. Just tell it what block you want to keep and it'll even remove the commercials. There were remnants of DVR, or the proper term of digital video recording, several years ago, but yeah, Netflix has pretty much killed it. And I guess I just needed to wait a little bit for the DVD players to show up. $900 for a portable one. Yikes. All so your kids can trash it because you're not watching Independence Day on that tiny ass thing. Aw, they're adorable, aren't they? It seems nuts to spend over $100 on a camera, but you know what? Y'all are paying more for that now, so your S25 can creep on your neighbors. Now that is a lot of old tech in one case. The PalmCam Super Disc camera uses both a floppy disk or a super disc, or a small CD, either one, and USB connectivity. But if I could direct your attention to the little gadget on the bottom, that's right, Camera Watch. It is, effectively, a photo booth you can wear on your wrist. It's giving me Dick Tracy vibes though. But we know who really wins this camera war, right? That's right, it's the sexy translucents. It's a shame, the last page of the catalog, it's a bunch of video cameras that have since been replaced by cell phones. But I think we have a clear winner here. Translucents definitely won this year. And I'm afraid this is the part where I have to say goodbye. 697 pages. 1 hour of your valuable time. You've spent it with me and I have to thank you. To me, this is just really cool. I mean, yeah, it's useless. You're going through an old catalog. That's not really interesting, is it? Well, it is a snapshot of a day that's long past. 2000 means this happened 25 years ago, and I can't really believe that much time has passed. I love sharing this with people. If anybody wants to talk about it, I'm willing to share what I know, and I'm just not one for big production value, so I appreciate you sticking with me this long. I know I'm not the flashiest hour-long video you're ever going to watch, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Take care.